Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to do some stamping techniques on Yupo paper. Yupo is a synthetic paper that gives some really cool results when you're using watercolors or watercolor markers or even alcohol ink. So it's just really fun to play with. This video is brought to you by Rubber Stamp Tapestry, and I'm going to be using a few of their brand new release peg stamps, and they're actually offering you guys a free shipping code, and I'll have that in the video description. It's only good until the 19th, so you're going to want to make sure that you don't miss it. But let's go on to the demo so you can kind of see what we're working with here and how much fun this paper is to play with. Here are some examples that I've done. This one was probably the first thing I was playing with, and I kind of just made like a path of watercolor and then stamped around it and let the colors kind of mix and mingle and flow, and I thought that was a really fun effect. And then I thought, well, maybe a little less water with this one, and I also like that, and I also like spattering some of the ink. I thought that was just kind of a fun look, because you get these really hard edges and then lighter in the middle, which is just a neat effect. And then with this set, Aloha, I just wanted to get some tropical colors, and after I did the stamping, I just pulled a wet brush to move some of that ink around and fill in my kind of swaggy design. And then here, I really loved all the elements in this between the paving stone set. It was fun to just kind of play with some softer, more ladylike colors. I thought it would be nice for Mother's Day. And this retro sundress was also fun to play with the aquas and the corals and just kind of more of those retro colors. And I'll show you some projects I made with these at the end of the video. And then again, I was just playing with how wet I wanted the paper to be to see like how things moved around. And I even sprayed the paper first on this one and then did some stamping for a cool effect. And here I left it a little bit drier because I wanted the crisp details of the different Americana elements. So let's get going. What I have here is a piece of Yupo paper, and I've cut it down from a larger sheet because I buy this for watercoloring, so I get it in the larger sheets. And I want to begin by kind of making an area to work. So I'm just going to trace this stamping block to kind of give me a border. And I'm just using a water-based marker. And this works really great with any of your watercolor markers. I happen to have these Spectrum Aquas here, but use whatever you have. Now, I made a little mistake, but the great thing about this is that I can wipe it away. So I'm just going to wipe this, wash it away, and then just blot it off. Now, the challenge to this paper is that it takes a long time to dry, so you might actually end up setting your work aside overnight while you're waiting for it to dry. So I want to have like kind of an interior border, so I'm just going to kind of scribble a few of the colors that I'm going to use in my design. And I think doing backgrounds like this is really great because you get to incorporate all those colors right from the get-go, so everything's going to look like it just matches and works together, which is just really fun, I think. A little bit of that. I also want kind of like a mossy green, so I'm just going to grab one of my Marvy La Plumes. And that's a thing, when you're using with water-based markers, they're all going to really work together well. So don't feel like you have to just use one brand or the other. They'll all play nice together. So I wanted to kind of give this a fun look. So I'm just going to spritz this with some water, and look what happens. Isn't that cool? I mean, just changing the paper and using the supplies that you already love, it's just fun. And I just wanted to kind of set like a vignette for my pretty stamps. So I just really like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to blot in the center where I'm going to stamp. And I am going to use, I think I want to use Bright New Day. This is one of their new releases. And I love their packaging because these actually work really well as palettes if you want to like scribble out some some of your marker colors and work from that. Now, I have a theory when I go to work with these kinds of stamps, and I call it the putting rocks in a jar theory. So I start with my big stones. That would be like my biggest stamp, my biggest image. Then I put in the medium-sized pebbles, and that would be my medium-sized image. And then I go in with the sand. That would be my tiniest image. And then I would go in with the water, and that would be like those kind of like tiny little flowers that I want to piece around. That way you can fit all of your designs in, and it's a lot easier to create that balance in your design. So what I'm going to start with is this pretty, they almost look like petunias, and I'm going to do them with a couple shades of purple. I've got this really nice, almost fuchsia-y kind of purple. And you can get a couple generations before you have to re-ink. See, I'm able to get 3 stamps there. And then I'm going to go in with my darker purple and use whatever colors you like. If these are too bold for you, then go with something lighter. There's no rules here. Your colors do really glow on this paper, but I will show you in a minute how much they can lighten up once they dry. And I'm not going to worry about that, okay? Partial images will be fine. And then I want to go in with my leaves, and I think I'm going to use a couple different tones of green here. I like this nice, it's almost like a tealy green, but I think I'm also going to kind of dab on some of this more mossy green, or kind of like a sap green. Just get that in there a few places. Maybe just do the sap on its own. I really think watercolor markers are a great investment because they work just like an ink pad. Now look at the registration mark. If you're kind of confused as to where to stamp down, that's where the end of your stem will be. So you can help you place. And it's also a good idea to turn your image as you work, because then you don't have everything all lined up like soldiers. It looks a lot more natural and a lot more pleasant to the eye. Now if you got a little, like you over inked and you got the edge of your stamp there, you can wipe it up on this paper, which is really handy. And I think I want a few more of that, of the evergreen color too. You know, and it's just making a balance. You know, just keep stamping around until you're happy with the way you got it. No real rules here, guys. And if it hits some of the color that's wet, it's going to go do some cool stuff, which I think is kind of fun. I think I want to get a little bit more, maybe just sneak it right in there. Okay. And then finally, in this stamp set, this is a 3-peg set, so it's a little bit easier to actually work with because you don't have too many things to try to fit in there. There's this little branch, and I want to get that in a few places. And I'm going to let it even go right out into that water, let it kind of fade away. And I'm going to do a little fill-in technique. We're just going to go in with a little bit of water and just kind of dab in around and let it just kind of blend. Now if I wanted to spatter some, I can at this stage. A lot's going to happen to this, and you'll see that in a second. If I want to say spatter some brown in there or something, I can do that. And it looks kind of cool, and it's not going to stay like this. And this will probably take about an hour or more to dry, so you'll want to make sure you work on a flat place that you can leave it be. I've got to move this though because of the way that I'm set up to film, but that's all right because I have another example all ready for you. So I'm just going to set that aside and try not to move it too much, but I will bring it in there so you can have a little bit of a close-up. How fun that kind of looks there already. I'm setting it back on my bench so it can be undisturbed. And now this one I did last night, and I used that same stamp set, but now I want to bring in another stamp set and get some other designs in there. So I've got this set here, which is Between the Paving Stones. And I'm going to stamp some in the same colors that I have been using, but since I'm using a little bit different motifs, they're really going to stand out, I think. And plus, they'll appear to be a little bit darker since they're going on right on top of the dry paper and the kind of where everything's diluted down a little bit. And I think I want some of these tiny little flowers. I'm going to do those in pink because those will really pop, I think, because it's a little bit more solid of a design there. We'll get a few of those in. Oh, so pretty. Isn't that lovely? And then I can do a few leaves if I want to in that mossy color. But you know, you don't want to overdo it because there's something really magical about how the watercolors just blend there. It's nice if you can just kind of leave some of it to chance and enjoy the spontaneous nature of it all. And just remember to look at your registration marks as you go, so that they're usually at the base of the leaf, the base of the stem, kind of where you want to anchor things. So it's a really good kind of rule of thumb when you're going around there looking at those registration marks to make sure that your placement is correct. So I'm going to let this dry for a minute, and then we're going to come back and finish it up. I gave it a couple minutes to dry, and now we are going to build this card together. So what I'm going to do here is use a pair of decorative edge scissors to cut out my border, and it's up to you how close you want to go. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to cut with these scissors just because it's not crispy like a normal piece of paper. And you know, you might even want to cover your entire card with the Yupo paper and just let the edges happen, and because they're really pretty on their own. It's just completely up to you. I just love those soft edges. I think they're really nice. Okay, and then I prepared a piece of craft card with a little bit of a green border on there, and I'm just going to adhere that down just like that. And you can see that my ink is still a little glossy in the middle because it does take a long time for this to dry. And you might actually want to spray this once it's all dry with a little hairspray or maybe some fixative or something like that to really lock down those colors, because if somebody gets this wet or they got a wet fingers and they touch it, it is going to lift up the paint. It's like plastic. It is plastic, so it's very reactive to water, moisture, oils, that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind if you're giving this to like a child or to somebody that would want to keep it for a long time. Now let's take a look at some of the projects that I've already made. You can see that they work great for bookmarks and cards. Definitely for bookmarks, I recommend putting a piece of packing tape over that or something to protect it so if it does get wet, it doesn't damage your book. But there's really a lot of fun designs that you can make using this technique and these gorgeous stamps from Rubber Stamp Tapestry. I'll put a link in the video description to take you to Rubber Stamp Tapestry. They're at pegstamps.com, and the coupon code SHIPFREE16 that will give you free shipping through April 19th of this month. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.